I think what this situation has done has effectively made people to realize, oh, we can't trust people the way we think we could, right? That's effectively what I'm thinking, right? And really, this really comes from a tweet. I want to say Mizutara or Mizutara. I don't think that's the name. Mizutara. What the hell is the name? Mizutamari, I think that's the name. Oh my gosh, why that I struggled. I'm sorry. I tried, bro. I tried. But when it comes down to it, though, it was a tweet that they made about Shallow's response about the whole Cinder thing and what they viewed from it. And I did take a look at the response as well, and yeah, it pretty much checks out to a degree. And when it comes down to it, they was kind of just like, yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It feels like the response is a bit wild. It kind of feels like they was ready to go ahead and throw Cinder in the dirt immediately when it come down to all that shit. Like because I ain't gonna lie, this kind of feels like, at least for Shadow Lily's kind of perspective of things, kind of like she been wanting to say shit about Cinder for a while now, but it just kind of happened this way, right? And that's a perspective I guess you can also take on this. But the main thing too is really when you look at the space of VTubing, it just feels untrustworthy, right? And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Essentially, the topic of trust from content creators and just VTubers and whoever the hell out there, right? Because obviously, this is the thing. As a person that watch a lot of YouTube myself and a lot of people too, we can't sit here and predict when the hell there's going to be some nonsense coming from a certain content creator, or if there is any nonsense that, you know, could be on the rise. We just simply don't know. We could just only hope that the person that we're watching is essentially really solid and they actually are being truthful. And that's really all there is to it, because at the end of the day, we can't necessarily sit here and have the full-blown knowledge of what is happening here, what exactly is they about. Even if you've been on the platform for so damn long, that still doesn't necessarily mean you're immune from a shakeup, because you're human. You're gonna go through a shakeup. Shaking up is what you do, like a damn milkshake. It's essentially how it rolls, you know? But ultimately, it's not necessarily, you know, something that we have full control over. We just don't know. Again, we could just only really sit here and just hope that things aren't nearly as bad as people hope it is, or at least make it out to be. We don't hope it is at all, but, you know, that's just how it is. Because I'm not gonna lie, just at least in my personal opinion, looking at the whole side of this situation and just VTubing as a whole, and really thinking about every other incident that kind of has happened, I feel like there is a lot more snakes in the garden than I think, or at least potential snakes in the garden that I think there is, right? And when it comes down to it, I'm not gonna lie, I don't trust any big name person at the top anymore, or at least I never had like full-blown trust, but I don't trust that they're just solid anymore, right? I feel like there's a, you know, a sort of sneak mentality into most people that is up there. At least that's kind of what I'm gauging from a lot of this right now, right? Because you have like VShojo, right, that has a lot of weird things that go on when it comes down to the lifetime of that group and people of that group as well. You have obviously this whole situation, and really anybody from the indies is pretty much, you know, fair game to be kind of on sneaks like Orochimaru tactics. But at the very same time, you know, not everybody's like that, you know, because obviously there's people that I have met, obviously, that is not like that, at least as far as I'm aware of, right? So when it comes down to it, you're gonna very much meet people that are genuine, but there's a really messed up, messy Royal Rumble match of people that are just untrustworthy, or feel like at this point that's what you're getting. What this whole situation has done in my brain feels like it just brought out the worst of everybody, right? I feel like that's essentially what it has done. And keep in mind, I understand where a lot of people feel when it comes down to this too, because it is like, damn, we literally, you know, just had Cinder to be here, for, at least on the fan side, you know, kind of chilling, doing all this stuff, and, you know, not really causing a problem. At least as far as I'm aware, I haven't really seen her do a controversy. There might be maybe one, because of course it would be, but I haven't really seen anybody with a massive controversy when it comes down to Cinder. until this point. So when it comes down to it, yeah, she pretty much had a decent track record. She had a good track record for a lot of people. And for this to kind of come out and this be the case, yeah, I can very much understand this being some horse shit for a lot of people. I get people wanting to burn her merch or just dump it in the trash and all that stuff. But at the very same time, I do feel like that's a little bit wasteful. Granted, it's your money, do what you want. But at the very same time, I will shout out to that one person that at least donated that stuff to a good cause, because I feel like that will be more useful than just destroying the shit. But again, that's your money. It is what it is. One thing, and this is another thing too I like to add as well, is that this is why I often say, or at least get mad confused a lot of the time when things like this happen, and just be like, you're a big influencer who probably was searching hard as hell to get to the top of where you are. Why would you, oh why, sit here and jeopardize literally everything that you worked for so damn hard, and then, you know, just basically put that on the line for literally no damn reason, right? Now granted, there could be things in the past that, you know, might come up and stuff like that, and granted, in certain instances that's kind of just an uncontrollable situation. There's nothing you can really do there, and it may not even be who you currently are. You could say you say those things or did something or whatever, but at the same time you could be changed from that, you know, that time back then versus the time you are now, and that just kind of how it is. So there is, ultimately, people are going to have skeletons in their closet, and that's just how it is. There's not really much you can, you know, do about that. You know, plenty of people have it. Pretty much everybody that walks this earth has a skeleton in their closet or two, right? It just depends on how bad that skeleton really is. So that's ultimately what it comes down to. But when it comes down to, you know, literally how people perceive you, especially as a giant influencer, that literally is a make or break for things, you know. And granted, if you get into any controversy at all and you lose that controversy, you basically, it's just like a one and done, right? Because tons of people are not gonna sit here and just, you know, still ride with you after such a big event has happened. There's a lot of people that will leave you, but at the very end of the day, if, again, depending on the situation, you can still kind of ride with it, or you could basically double down, be that horrible person, and people will just watch you just so you can ruin your whole life. And that's also something that people just will give attention to for whatever reason, you know, unless you just really are that egregious, you're trash at it, and then ultimately people just don't care because they're not entertained. But my point though is definitely that even if, let's say for instance, for some miracle reason, some big content creator comes through and they decided to yap to me and wanted to actually, you know, I guess form some type of relationship or something like that, and I'll be down for it. But here's the thing, I'm not viewing you as a friend, much less am I aiming for that. Like, at first, when I first started doing content creation, I was for sure gunning for, like, yeah, let's go get a friendship going, and, you know, why can't people just be friends? This is the reason why. I understand it now, right? As far as I'm aware, if we're gonna chat it up, we are associates. That's as far as this whole thing kind of goes. The only chance you have of that, for me personally, at least at this current moment in time, to be actually, like, genuinely friends and stuff like that, is if we hit it off really nicely. You seen the trenches that I've been in trying to fight my way out of, and we've been fighting the trenches together, or there's been some problems on either side that either I had to help out with, or either you had to help me out with, or something like that. And that's, like, for me, the three ways I can kind of see, you know, where a friendship can actually happen. That doesn't necessarily mean an associate can't become a friend. Sure, yes they can, they absolutely can, but at the very same time, you know, it's not gonna, it's gonna still be a little minute, right? And even if you are a friend or anything like that, putting that much blind faith and trust into a actual friend is a bit crazy, right? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh, I never had a best friend before, I never put all my trust into one before, because obviously, yes, I had multiple best friends before. But when it comes down to it though, at the end of the day, there is certain things you do trust people with, and then there's certain things you just don't tell anybody, right? at least especially a friend that could easily break off a relationship if they choose to, right? Like, you wouldn't hand your best friend your social security number even if they're your best friend and they legit did not look at that number, right? You wouldn't just do that, right? That's something you got to keep and hold on for yourself, right? And that's just how it is, especially when money is involved. That's a worse situation. And that's why I was talking about the whole Cinder, situation. Talking about, I wouldn't want to go into business with either a best friend or, some type of like relationship partner or anything like that. I just wouldn't do that because I know the nonsense that will come from that. But that's just my personal take on to that side of things. But again, when it comes down to it, we don't know what these people are like outside of the camera. We don't. We have no clue. No one really does. And at the end of the day, we can only just hope and just pray, really, that they're not nearly as bad as people make them out to be at times, or things sort of like that, or not. Hopefully the skeletons in the closet ain't nearly as shitty as people often try to make it to be. I would say, just for a quick example as to who I would consider to be a friend, and I brought her up before, and again, haven't yapped to her in a minute, which I kind of need to do. It's been a minute, but when it comes down to it, again, I'll chuck Alice into this, mainly because there's been a fair amount of times where my ass has been in some hot water with people or whatever, or situations I don't know what to do, and essentially she comes through and helps me out in some shape and form, or I go to her for advice at times, at least some time ago, and essentially, I had to ask it because I didn't know what to do, and she gave out solid advice and just told me what she would do, and that was solid, and from that foundation and stuff before and prior and other things concerning it, I value Alice as a friend, and that's just how it is, and there's other people that has been also with me in the trenches of other problems, especially the shit that happened last August. If you know, you don't know, don't worry about it. But that was definitely a showing of, the people that were there in my corner. Definitely people that I value, and that's why, and I'll go ahead and say it out loud because not a lot of people are getting in, but this is why I have a secret ass Discord server for those type of people that are in that shit, because I know that I do have a level of trust within those people. Granted, I don't use that server at all unless some shit happens, but still, I do value, the input that they might give, or value the actual concern they have, and that's why I value those people there. I might not talk to everybody all the damn time, I apologize for that, but when it comes down to it though, I do very much value the hell out of, the people that is there, or at least the people I had, invited to that place. So there is definitely a lot of value to be had there. So again, you can trust, there is a level of trust you can have when it comes down to friends and things of sort like that, but also at the very same time, there's also moments where you got to realize, okay, putting all this blind faith into one person or a single thing could also be mad detrimental, right? This is why it's also valid at times to ask questions too, especially if you're starting to get a vibe where things don't feel right, things don't feel good, and it doesn't feel solid. What actually is the deal here? Is there some shady shit I need to know? And granted, again, this is coming down to a trust issue where it's like, all right, I just gotta trust and hope they're telling me the truth, and that's just how it is. Or if I feel like it's the right thing, and that's again what this really comes down to. Essentially, a giant ass, big booty ass, rat Jane Doe looking ass trust issue situation. That is essentially what we have, because ultimately, again, like I said before, we don't know what any of these content creators are like. We just don't know. But at the end of the day, we can just trust that it's not nearly as bad as we hope they are, or at least nearly as bad as people may have think they are, or things like that, and stuff of the sort like that, Because I'm not gonna lie, the last thing I want to see is a content creator I watch ends up slowly turning into an asshole, or they end up basically getting revealed to be a certain type of thing, or did something bad, and then now they just basically looking like Drake when he was swatting at a drone at his weird ass hotel. Like, that is still the wackiest thing I have ever seen. If you haven't seen that clip, go look it up. But I guess that's really all I want to say for this one. Really, just again, the whole matter of trust between the fan and the content creator and things sort like that, because that is so key. That is so pivotal, because I don't want content creation to get to a point where people just break promises and trust all the time to their fans and audiences, and then that's when people just stop giving a shit about YouTube or stop giving a shit about, you know, creating new people, right, to get up to those high levels, because at the end of the day, it's unnecessary for, you know, something like that to be the case, for people to be untrustworthy, right? It shouldn't have to get to that point. And the last thing I want to see is just, you know, again, a content creator or a group of them, a generation of them, ruining content creation for literally everyone else, and now everybody's stuck in the trenches because a few asshole content creators can't get their shit together and do what they need to do. You are at that top, especially if you're on that top level, right? You got to realize you have impact, you have influence. You can damn near influence an entire generation of people if you really tried. And if they find out there is something wrong with you and it's really bad, the worst thing that could happen is everybody turn on you, the whole generation was a lie, and basically everything goes down the shitter, right? That's just how it is. Again, am I expecting ultimate peak perfection, perfect cell looking ass type of perfection of people? No. People are going to make mistakes. Bad things are going to happen. It is what it is. It's just hopefully not nearly as bad, or hopefully you can recover it in some shape and form to keep your good faith with the people. That is essentially all you got. Because let's be real, if you don't have the faith of the people at all, nobody can really become a content creator in the wildest type of ways that we have seen year after year after year with new people. Because, you know, if the people ain't there, well, they're not giving you much of anything. No one's giving you anything. So you're just an average, common, basically regular ass person, and that's all you really got, you know? So again, value your audience, value that, you know, they definitely, you know, are putting their faith into you, and essentially just realize that when you're big and you're about to screw up, or you may be on that route to doing so, it's best to try to, you know, again, take care of the audience as best as you can without necessarily trying to break their trust or try to hurt them nearly as bad, you know? And that's just ultimately how it is. So that's really all I got. But that's essentially, I guess, all I really wanted to say for this one. So hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification on your way out. Also on socials, and if you'd like to link to the channel, Kofi and Shakeup is available as well. And until that's me, boy Jay, signing off. Have a blessed day.